If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
Okay, so now before we actually deep dive into the TM master data, so we need to basically check why master data is required. Okay, so before I basically show you the master data, I just wanted to show you something here. So if you see, let me just create a sales order. Okay. So I just put in a particular, maybe I do it with, don't do with reference maybe. Or I do it with reference. Okay. So I just put in some dates. Suppose my delivery date is 20th of this month. Okay. And I put in my pricing date also. I put in some material here. I put in some quantity here. Okay. And my delivery date also same. And I just click on save button. So then system will do a check here. Okay. I'll just put a condition type. Okay. And just for my purpose, I also put in some route here. Okay. And I just click on the save button. So when I press save button, so if I go into display mode, so there is a status tab which is created here. Okay. And this status tab indicates that my sales order is integrated or getting integrated with my particular transportation management. That means I have a demand or a request from my sales order that my transportation has to be integrated with SAP TM. So that's the significance of this TM status tab. So how this TM status tab has come up, what config we need to do, that's all we'll see later when I will start with the order management. So my objective is to show you why master data is required. So if you see this particular status, and if I go here, and if I go into this document flow tab, so you will see that, in my standalone, we have this order-based requirement created. So all the transportation relevant information from my sales order is basically captured in an order-based requirement. Again, I'll come into details of this document later on. And when my order-based requirement is created, at the same time, my freight unit also got created. So freight unit, if you remember, is the, you can say, the most important critical document, because that is the planning document which actually connects your ECC with TM. And when you go into S4HANA, in S4HANA also I'll show you what will happen. You will see that this order-based requirement is not there, but rest of the flow remains the same. Okay. So when I go into freight unit, okay, so either you can go into the link here, or what I will do, I will open the freight unit directly in my transportation system. So this is my TM 9.5 system. Okay. And I just opened the pillar. This is called as a cockpit. I'll explain you all of this later on, how to access to these cockpits and all. But what I just wanted to show you is, when I check this particular cockpit, I see this is the freight unit which is created. Okay, this is the freight unit number 1602 and 1603. Okay, so this is the 1603. And when I open my freight unit, you will see that the three important information, that is a source location, the destination location, and the material code is actually inherited from my sales process. So if I go into this freight unit, so as I told you, freight unit has three important information, like where to transport, when to transport, and what to transport, right? So where to transport means basically I need the stage information. So if I go into a tab called as the stages, and in the stage tab, you will see here that my source location as well as my destination location is being seen. So my source location is TSPD and my destination location is the customer location. So both this information is actually coming from my sales order. Okay. So what I mean to say that, and finally also another thing is the material information. So if you go into the general data tab, you will see the material information as well, which is the material or product MM01, which you create in our material master. So TM01, product is TM-01, which you see here. Okay. Let's close this. So the most important info, what you find out from the sales order is that unless my master data is available in TM, neither my freight unit nor my OTR and all will be created. Okay. So this product information comes from sales order. The customer information comes from sales order. That is source location also comes from the sales order. So based on these three important information, we are actually transferring the requirement into SAP TM. Okay. Now that is the reason why master data is very critical, because if you are not creating your master data correctly, your entire process will not be working as designed. Okay. Any question before I move to the proper part?
So this freight unit that you're talking about is going to be only one line item, or it's going to be as much of line item as there in sales?
Yeah. So because it is based on delivery. So in case in delivery you are maintaining 10 products, all the information will come in a freight unit. Now, whether you want to create a one freight unit or 10 different freight units, that depends on a specific rule in TM called as a freight unit building rule. So when we'll come into that, we will see that. But in other words, to answer your question, yes, it is all coming from the delivery. Because unless in the delivery you are specifying what product to transport, SAP TM will not be knowing anything, because all the information is driven by the ERP here. Because the ECC team only knows what you are going to transport based on the customer order. The transportation management team will not be knowing on that. Okay. Any other question? Thing? Any specific information? Okay. So I just go back to my TM overview part here. So yesterday I've started maybe discussing this, if you recollect. So you see that the most critical information is the transportation network. Okay, because unless a transportation network is set up, your entire integration with TM will not work. The reason is why we call transportation network, because network is not only identified by a location. Network is identified by a lane, network is identified by what, the transportation zone, network is identified by transportation location. So all these elements actually make up your transportation network. So if you see in the right hand side, I have clearly shown here that your locations, your zones and your lanes makes up your entire transportation network. Because you need, why it's important that you should set up your transportation network, because unless the network is set up, you will not be actually knowing from where to where your transportation should go, right? That is a very critical thing. So if I ask you what is a transportation network, so can anyone explain what do you mean by transportation network? What do you feel, why it is important? Anyone? No one. Okay. Okay. So transportation network basically defines the reachability between the locations and the transshipment points where freight needs to be transported from one point to another point. So when I'm moving any transport freight from point A to point B or from point B to point C, in that case, it is very important to know which are the locations involved in the transportation point or the transportation process and how the transport is to happen. So the combination of the locations along with the means of transport basically defines the transportation network. And this transportation network is essential for your planning process because through the transportation network, the planner can determine the best path through which your particular transport can reach based on the requested delivery date, based on the cheapest means of transport, and also based on cost and the route optimization. So all these things is the ultimate objective of determining and setting up a proper transportation network. So when we are setting up the transportation network, the most important component is the location. Can anyone tell me what is the location? Anyone? No one knows what is the location. Just means not only from TM perspective, but no one has heard about what is the location.
A plant normally they call plant as locations in general.
Okay. Yes, it can be a plant, it can be a warehouse, it can be a port, it can be an airport, anything. Okay. So locations, basically, we can say they are the most critical node of any transportation network because this is the point where your goods are loaded and unloaded. Okay. And whenever we set up locations, we basically consider three locations. One is the source location. Second is the destination location. But in case the locations are getting routed through some other locations as well, they are called as a transshipment location. So for example, I just give you an example here so that you can understand in a better way. So can you tell me how many locations are there if I'm using this process flow? That is, I'm moving from Cologne to Chicago. Can you tell me how many locations are there?
Four locations.
Yes, you're right. Why four locations? Yes. Now there is a, yeah. Tell me.
Two is a source and destination, and two is transit location. So in this,
correct. So if you are a customer and if you are communicating with your shipper that I need my goods in Chicago, which is the consignee, and your Cologne location is your shipper location. So that's why you saw when I created my freight unit, initially it is created of a single stage. So single stage means my source point and my destination point. So here my source point is Cologne, which is my shipper, and my destination point is Chicago, which is a consignee location. So always remember, whenever your SAP, when you are implementing transport management, because my customer is not interested through which my carrier or my shipper is routing the goods, but is only interested, okay, what is the pickup point, what is the destination point. So due to this design and due to this requirement, SAP has designed the stages in such a way that in standard automatically a single stage is always created. So that means the source location or my colon is my pickup. So in SAP terminology, we call it as a source, and this is my final destination location. And between this, so this is my ordered route because the routing is ordered from pickup to destination. But because the shipper has transported or subcontracted its particular process to a third party, so here they are using Bremen and Newark as another points through which the actual routing happens. So there is a difference between ordered route and actual route. So ordered route is always a single stage, but actual route is of a 3 stage because we have considered 2 more additional locations. Okay. So stages you can say is always locations minus 1. So in case I have got 4 locations, So number of stages will be 3. And why these are called transshipment points? Can you tell me how do you know that this is a transshipment or transit point? Anyone heard about the word transit or transshipment?
Here the transportation mode is changing, that's all.
Yes, you're right. So basically you are correct, because the transportation mode is changing. That's why we are calling it as a transshipment point. So transshipment points are those points or are those locations where the goods are unloaded and loaded. So that is the first criteria, where loading and unloading has to happen. And the second is the mode of transport changes. Then only those points are identified as a transshipment points. So in case the transshipment points are not available, in that case, so still see, SAP does not need that these points needs to be identified as a transshipment points, because whether it's a transshipment point or not a transshipment point, anyway, this is the location for SAP. But if you want to basically specify some charge calculation, that means my carrier charges based on specific number of transshipment points, then you can just mark them that this is the point where my loading and unloading happens and my mode of transport changes. And another important impact of transshipment point is that the number of freight documents also change. So if you see, if you are going by the ordered route, you would have a single freight order, right? You would have a single shipment. But because of the transshipment points, the number of freight documents or number of shipments documents gets changed. Can you tell me how many shipment documents are here? Great. How many? 3. 3. Yes, you're right. 3. The reason for why 3 documents are here, because for the stage 1, you have ship Cologne to Bremen. For the stage 2, you have port to port. And for the stage 3, you have your particular port to consignment. So that's why for every stage, there has to be a particular means or shipment document created, so that you can do the transport from one location to another location. So that's why location is very critical for your entire network. If you are not clear on the location concept, then you will not be able to set up your transportation network properly. Okay. Anything which you want to know more, then I'll likely come into the location setup directly. Okay. So whenever you are setting up a location, so location basically is a master data, as I told you, right? So today, let me just explain to you how does a location look like, and then obviously how the location setup will be there. That part we'll anyway see it, but it's important to know how does the particular location look like on an end user level. Okay. So when I talk about locations, so location is actually the data which is used mainly as a, you can say, there are different ways by which the locations can be created. Okay, if I say in that way, because locations can be created manually, it can be created automatically, it can also be created through batch job, it can also be created through some core interface model. Okay, so based on how the you are going to frame up your setup for your location, that will entirely depend on the deployment option. Because if you are using S/4HANA, there is a different way to create your location. If you are basically creating a standalone TM, there are different ways to create a location. Okay. And when you are creating a location, so you will see here that there are location types. So let me first of all show you how a location looks like. So this is my TM system. And if you go into TM system, go to master data, go to transport network, go to locations, and here you can define a location. Okay. So first of all, we'll see the end user part. What does the location comprises of? What are the different data elements you have? So let me open any location. So if I open the location for my shipping point, So I just create shipping point as a location type, and here I can select the different types of locations which I have. Suppose let me open this location. So when I'm creating a location, anyway, you'll always have a location ID. And also the most important thing is that you will have a location type. So if I go to the change mode, because this was created, you will see a location type is always there. So if I go into this location type, you will see there is production plan, there is distribution center, there is shipping point. So each of the location needs to be identified with an identifier. So that identifier is a location type. So if you're creating a location as a plant, if you're creating a location as a distribution center, creating as a business partner, creating as a port, airport, hub, gateway, warehouse, you can use any of the location type as it is. And if you want to basically create your location type, which is not there, so daily the standard what SAP is given is sufficient. In case you want to use a particular location and all, then location type you need to do a development, because this particular location type is actually related to your addition of a data element in the data dictionary structure. It is not something which is configurable. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? The significance of location types and all. Okay.
Is it possible to change a location type? Like suppose we have created one with some location type and later on they decided, okay, we have to
No.
change.
No.
No.
So you don't have this, but in S4HANA, when I'll also show you in S4HANA, there is a report based on which you can change the location type. Okay. So that report was not there in TM 9.5.
Okay.
So you have got all these multiple tabs. So if you see there is a tab called as an identifier. Okay. So this identifier means what? So this identifier means how to identify a particular location which is used in international trades and terminologies. Okay. Because this location has to be identified globally, right? So for example, if you remember, just to give an example, because in my scenario, I'll be using suppose port as one of the transshipment points. So I have to create port also as a location. So here there are two identifiers if you see, unilocation code and IATA code. The unilocation code is actually the code which is used for any type of naming for a port. And IATA code is mainly used if you are using the transshipment point as a airport. So if you are traveling maybe from Hyderabad to Bangalore, you will see that every ticket, every airport from where you are departing and arrival has a code, IATA code, so that you can identify that particular port with the help of this code. So that's why this code is very important. But again, many of the clients don't use this code. It is not mandatory. Okay. And if you don't want to use the code, you are free to process it. But you can use this code to give an international recognition from the source and the destination perspective. And this code, what you see here is configurable. Configurable means if you go here, and if I go to, for example, SPRO, okay, I go here, I go to transport management, I go to transport management, I go to master data, I go to transport network, and I go to location. And when I go to location, see, I can define the code to the configuration. So the first configuration is activate change documents. That means whatever changes you want to do in your particular location master, if you want that those changes should be logged as in the change pointer, that means all the changes which you are doing in your location master should be tracked and should be available in the database. Then this change pointers or the change documents at a location level should always be tick marked. And when you get a system, you'll always have this tick mark available. So you don't have to worry on that. Okay. And whenever you want to define an identifier, so I'm using my suppose a port scenario. So what I can do, I can define a unilocation port. So suppose I've got two ports, one is a Bremen port and another is a New York port, right? For example. So you can always use these two ports here in order to designate your identifier. Okay. So if you want to create it for a port, you can directly go in this, click on this new entries. Okay. Suppose I give a code, Raven code. And I can get another one called as a New York code. And then I click on save. Okay. So you'll see here, in case you want to create your location code, you can also maintain, in case this maintenance of the data belongs to the responsibility of any planning execution org. So you can maintain the planning execution org which we created yesterday, or you also can keep it blank also. Because if you are keeping it blank, that means no planning and execution organization is responsible for maintaining this unilocation. Okay, that is the meaning. Now if I go and back to the transport management, if I go there, so once you have maintained this unilocation code, or you can also specify the IATA code, you can see this is the external location short text. So this short text means whatever text you are maintaining in your location, that will automatically be coming here. And this is the business system group. Why this business system group is required? Because my TM system should refer to that logical system where it is built up. Okay. So in this case, if the business system group is because it is built up for BD1300 plan, the logical system. So that's why it is showing the business system group as BD1300. So remember yesterday we have created I've showed you the pathway for the business system group, right? So you can use the same pathway to create the business system group. The next comes the geographical data. Can you tell me why geographical data is important? What do you mean by geographical data? Sorry?
The location coordinates for exact determination.
Yes, but why it is important? Why do you feel why it is important? What you will achieve by maintaining the data there?
If we have multiple stages and if we maintain the right geographical data through an IGS or whatever, so I mean, that will help us determine the shortest path or the best path.
Yes, you are correct. So this concept is actually a concept which is used because this was very much used in Oracle. I don't know whether you have heard about Oracle software. So the Oracle software, actually this concept was very importantly used for mainly doing the planning, because initially when TM was launched in TM, I don't know whether you know it, TM was initially launched at TM 6.0. Okay, then came TM 7 and then came TM 8. And then we began the journey on TM9. So in the initial days, this planning, distance, duration, calculation, this was never taken into account. Okay. So in that case, why this particular latitude, longitude, altitude is important? Because geographical information always plays a role in any type of transportation process. So because without knowing the latitude, longitude, altitude, you will not be able to calculate the actual distances between 2 points. And if you are not knowing the actual distances between 2 points, you will not be able to determine the duration between the 2 points. Because ultimately you need to make sure that you are reaching the point A to point B within X number of hours. In order to determine those distance and duration functionality, we need to maintain latitude, longitude, altitude. Now, how this latitude, longitude, altitude information will come in? So there are different ways by which they come in, but please note that unless you are putting this latitude, longitude, altitude, and if your carrier charges you based on the actual distance, then it is not possible to do any type of charge calculation. So you have to basically make sure that somehow this latitude, longitude, altitude comes in. Okay.
So, Virendra, the question. So we have a requirement where, and this is Vinod. So we have requirement where we need to install the PC Miler as a GIS software, and that PC Miler will calculate this. So can you also show the how PC Miler works and how it can be integrated to TM?
See, PC miler part, what you are saying, basically it is not possible to show here, first of all, because it's a geo service. And in order to have any integration with geo service, you need to have a license, first of all. That is first thing. And second thing, the mapping with any type of external service providers require your enhancement through web service. Okay, so you need to set up some geographical services, and through the geographical services, the information can be referenced into TM. So unfortunately, means that will not be possible because it's a standard process we are showing. Okay. But
yeah, but I mean in SPRO there are configurations available for PC Miler because it is I think a PC SAP supported vendor.
The configuration is not related to PC Miler. The configuration is related to your geo routing and geocoding. You don't have any specific configuration for PC Miler. Okay, I don't know if SAP has told you that. I don't know which mode they have represented, but that is not there. Okay, and you are talking about S4 HANA, or you're talking about standalone?
S4 HANA embedded 2020.
It is not. It is not there. I can show you the node also. SAP has never launched that. Okay, I'll tell you how this GIS part is calculated. That I can tell you, but I cannot show you in the standard process. Okay.
Okay.
So this latitude, longitude, altitude information basically it comes into three different ways. Just let me go through this and then we'll come into this GIS integration. Okay, just wait for maybe 5-10 minutes. So this latitude, longitude, altitude information, it comes in three different ways. Either you need to send or rather either you need to maintain the data manually. That is number one. Number two is that you have to integrate with any type of GIS providers, like as you were saying, PC Miller and the Nokia service provider, Google Maps. They are all the different types of geo service provider. So geo service providers' main objective is to basically provide you the information about the latitude, longitude, altitude. And the third way by which you can create your location or this information can be updated is based on once you are entering the country and the region, SAP has a standard BADI mapping the country region to a latitude longitude code. So once you enter the country and the region, okay, automatically the latitude longitude will be coming up here. And you'll see a field called as a precision field. So this precision field will actually indicate what data SAP has considered to populate the GIS data. So 400 means region. That means SAP has considered both country as well as the region to populate those latitude, longitude, altitude. Okay, if you have used only country, then it would have been 300. So this precision field actually indicates the data which is used in the address tab to populate the data. Okay, so that is about the precision. Time zone. Time zone, I think all of you knows, because whenever you are creating a location, you should know in which time zone this is in. And this is the log geodata. So log geodata means what? In case you want to use the location, suppose I am a planner. I am planning this location for my transport movement from US to Germany. At the same time, maybe another planner by mistake is also planning this. So in that case, there will be a dual planning, right? So in order to avoid that, I can log the geodata. Log geodata means in case I'm using this data as a planning mechanism or planning or using this data for planning. In that case, the other planner will not be able to use this particular location for the planning. So that is the concept of log geodata. Okay. And priority, you can always give a priority to a particular location if you want to prioritize the location. And this is the deletion flag. So this deletion flag is actually used in case you have created a location and later on you want to delete the location. Okay. So in the first step, you see there are two configurations we have considered, one based on the unilocation code and all. And secondly, if you want to have a GIS integration, then this information will be updated. So I'll come into the GIS part a little bit later. I think you know that every location has an address, right? So the address tab contains the default address, post office box address, all the contact details. So the geographical coordinates, which you see in the first tab, are determined automatically as soon as you maintain the country code, because that is the section, that is the normal integration we have with GIS. Okay. And here you can maintain also email address and phone number, fax, etc. This is the the alternative identifier. So alternative identifier means they are always maintained in this tab, because here you can define the possible types of alternative location identifier. So alternative location identifier is basically used, for example, just to give an example, suppose you are using a particular transportation location and that location is used as an yard. So in order to give an identifier to that location, you can always use an alternative identifier type as a yard, so that within the yard the truck can come in, go out, etc. But you are giving an identification to this one. Or for example, you have got a port at Dusseldorf, and that port is always doing a and it always like a normal port, it also stores warehouse services. So you can give an identifier as STS, where it stores the warehousing products as well. Okay, so that can be an identifier. So just as we have our good name as well as our pet name in the house in order to identify ourselves, similarly SAP has come up with this option of creating an alternative identifier type along with the alternative identifier ID. Okay, and this type and ID is also configurable. So again, it is not mandatory, but you can still use it without maintaining the configuration. In order to configure this, what I will do, I will basically go here. I go back, and here it's configuration for alternative identifier. Okay. So here, for example, see, I have created an alternative identifier for my EWM logistics target system and all this stuff. Okay. So if you want to create a two identifier, one for the Bremen port, one for the Newark port, right? You can go here and you can give a, suppose my port of loading is one identifier. So I give a description here, port of loading. And similarly, I give the code list. I give the code list here. So the code list is Bremen, BRE_02, port of Bremen. So this is the name. Okay. Similarly, I am creating one more identifier for my port of discharge. So just as port of loading, I also go for port of discharge. POD. And if you go to port of discharge, I can define the code list. So here, instead of Bremen, I will use B1. Okay. And once this setup is done, then you can always go here and you can, for example, select which is this one I have created port of loading 02. Accordingly, you can also tell the alternative identifier. Okay. So when I create the code for you, I will add it. Any question? Anything which you need to know?
Hello, could you please explain one more time what is alternative identifier?
Alternative identifier means just as you have your good name as well an alternative way to identify yourself. Similarly, SAP has brought up this option for internal identification within the organization. So as I told you, for example, you have a port. That port can also be used as a yard. So you can use an alternative identifier as a yard number there. So you can specify here alternative identifier as yard. Okay. Like you can create any number here and you can specify the ID as a yard 01. So in other words, you are actually specifying an alternative way to identify a particular location. Okay, this is not mandatory, but this is mainly used in those organizations where there are a lot of locations and you need an identifier to basically identify what that location is to be used for. If a particular location is to be used for a yard, you can give an identifier as a yard. If a particular location is to be used for storage service, you can use a storage service as an ID type. If a particular location is to be used for warehousing, more warehouse visits only. Okay. So in that case, you can give some code for that. So these are the different integration or applications which you can use for alternative identifier. Again, I tell you, if you are not maintaining alternative identifier, it is not going to stop any of your subsequent process.
And is it going to play any role during the planning, or it's just for the visibility or the reporting purpose?
Just for visibility, reporting purpose, and for FAQ for the plan.
Okay.
So I just remove this. Now comes the TM tab. So TM tab, actually this tab is mainly used to capture all the transportation relevant info. So if you see all the three previous tabs, it was not relevant for any TM information. So this TM tab allows you to maintain different types of information specific to transportation management. Okay. So the first is the minimum and the maximum goods waiting time. Why do you feel this is this field is there? Anyone knows? Okay. See, the reason why you need this is that basically suppose you are moving from point A to point B through a port. And if you know, so based on the distance and duration, it should take 2 hours. But if you are saying that I need to wait at this port for getting some document clearance, 1 hour. So instead of 2 hours, it will be total duration will be 3 hours, right? So for that additional 1 hour, the carrier may charge you more. And also the subsequent processes may get delayed, right? So if you know that a particular location has certain waiting time, please maintain it so that the planner can expect that, and accordingly the delivery date can also not be violated. Because if you know you have to wait certain 5 hours, so for example in a port, then you have to make sure that the exit time from the shipping point should be 5 hours ago, right? In order to match the time, right? So that's why SAP has said that you can specify some minimum and a maximum duration for a particular location. Okay. And this can be maintained in hours. Similarly, yeah.
So when we plan, in the transportation lane, when we define this data, so it will consider the minimum hour or the maximum hour?
No, it will determine so minimum and maximum means, suppose if you are specifying a particular, now the question is how will you get the maximum waiting time? Okay, that is the most important thing. So this is a ceiling. You cannot violate this ceiling. So that means you are saying at a particular port, I'm going to stay minimum 1 hour, maximum 2 hours. Okay, so based on this, my planner will keep in mind, okay, let's go with the maximum estimate of 2 hours, but somehow it should not estimate more than 2 hours. But the actual waiting time information should actually be provided somehow. Okay, either by through some like through GPS tracking and all, you can find out how much is the waiting time. But if it is a maximum time, you should not violate that. And minimum time is used to keep in mind that my transportations has to consider some minimum waiting time. Okay, so maximum time should not be breached. If it is breached, then some penalty cost can be associated with it.
Okay, well, let me put my question another way around. So suppose I'm transporting my initial leg from plant location to the custom port, the port location, and it has a custom office which has a clearance time of minimum 2 hours to 4 hours. And my transportation leg is overall 24 hours. So it will consider add 2 hours or it will add 4 hours to my transportation leg.
It always considers the maximum.
Okay.
So that's okay. It always consider the maximum so that your planner will plan. Means he has to see, he will do a backward scheduling, right? He will try to do a backward calculation and he will try to say, okay, if I have a maximum waiting time for 2 hours, I should consider that, because in that case, I can make a proper communication to my customer that at this point it is reaching to a location, right? So it is always, but this time is hardly maintained. I tell you why, because no one knows at which location, how much you have to wait. So this is generally a very black. I have never seen any project actually maintaining this entry. Okay.
Okay.
This is the air cargo security. This is mainly used for LSP. LSP means here you have to specify. Suppose my freight forwarder, like DHL, FedEx, they have a contract or negotiation with the air carrier, like Lufthansa, and there you can specify. So when you are implementing TM for DHL or FedEx, here you can specify the air cargo security information. You can classify the location as a known shipper, unknown shipper, and also you can specify the expiry date. Expiry date means for how long you know the shipper. So for that you can specify some information here. Okay, again, this is not a mandatory thing. You can escape without it. Okay, but in case you want to maintain some information for the air cargo security information perspective, you can maintain it. And this is not applicable for shipper. This is applicable for LSP. And this is the target system. So target system means here you can link the location to an SAP EWM, because in case your warehouse operations, your warehouse picking, packing, loading, good issue is actually integrated with your transportation process, then you have to specify the shipping location for your specific. So whenever you're creating a shipping location, okay, in that case, you should link the location to an EWM target system and the EWM warehouse number. You should not link any customer location or your port location to EWM, okay? Because the source location is always your shipping point from where the planning for your warehouse can be done. And finally, this is the equipment level information. So equipment level means, so for example, if you are transporting using a particular container, okay, and you want to say, okay, this location can only handle transports if I'm using a container of 20 feet. In that case, you can use an equipment type and equipment group. So equipment group will be 20 feet and equipment type will be CN. So CN is a identifier by which you can identify whether the transport is to happen through container or not. Okay. Now, why I recommend not to use this field? Because if you are using this field, then you can only use that specific container for that specific location only. So that is not good for planning, because you're planning, when you are doing a planning for a particular location transport, based on the location transport, first of all, your capacity may change, right? So today you are transporting 40 tons, tomorrow you may transport 500 tons. So if you're hard coding a particular container here, which uses only 20 tons or 40 tons, then it does not make sense, right? You need to have a appropriate or accurate transportation unit to transport the product. So that's why, you should keep this field blank, and you should, whenever we'll be creating a resource later on, there you can do the assembly. So what I will always recommend, don't put the value here, keep it blank so that you don't restrict the usage of a container or an equipment for a particular location, because you should offer flexibility to your planner to do the planning and not basically hard code it by using a specific equipment type and equipment group. Okay. So any question here?
No.
Okay. And the last part here is the resources. So resource, resource is again a specific transaction, a separate transaction within TM, based on which you can actually decide which resources are going to be used for which transportation process. So if you see here, if you see my PPT, so you already have a separate, you can say, a master data for resource, and this resource is actually the actual means of transporting the the cargo from one point to another. So when you can use a proper transfer resource, why to use it for a location? Because today this truck is moving from Cologne to Bremen. Tomorrow it can move from New York to Chicago. So if you are restricting the usage of a truck for a particular location, you are actually confining its transport for a specific location only. So that's what we should avoid. So although ACP is given the option that for a particular location, use this use this resource ID, conserve capacity and all. But when I have a separate transaction to create a resource, and there you actually should create that resource there, and then you should not assign it to a specific location unless you are making sure that the resource needs to come back to the original location. So again, I will recommend not to maintain any data here. These are used only for those areas where there is a limited usage of truck, limited usage of transportation. So for example, in Kashmir, if we're doing any transportation in Kashmir, always from one lane to another lane, there is a specific resource and its capacity can be used, right? You cannot use any other resources. In those areas, hardy areas, hilly areas, you can think to use the fixed or a specific resource information. But if you're planning on a global level where you have the flexibility to use multiple resources, then you should not use any resource information here, or else you are restricting the usage of resource for a particular location. Okay. So this is the configuration. So in terms of configuration, I have already shown you what is there in a resource. You can also basically, once you have created this particular resource, then you have covered these change documents, you have configured the alternative identifier, you can define the IATA code, or if you want to define an IATA code, same thing, you can define an IATA code. So this is for your airport and I am creating it for a port. Okay. So any question on the location part? Okay.
Location is just a standalone, I mean, a master data which can be used by for any kind of transport by any shipping point, plant or company.
No. There are two types of locations. If you remember yesterday I told you, one is the global master data, one is the local master data. So location has two variants. The global master data means, as you have said before, when I asked you how many locations are there, some of you said 4. Okay. So when I said that you have 4 locations to be created, 2 locations are transshipment points, right? Which is to be created in TM. Okay. But there are 2 other locations which are outside the control of local TM, because this information is actually inherited from my ECC, because this source location is my shipping point and my destination location is my ship to party. And whenever you are creating your master data in your TM, these 2 information is always inherited from ECC. So that's why it is called as the global master data. Okay. Did I explain it correctly or did I misunderstood your question?
So whatever we created now is this global master data, which is
No, local master data, because it is localized within TM only. Okay. So when you'll be referring to the ECC, and master data is only location. Okay. When you'll be referring the ECC, it will be on a global level. And there are different ways by which you can create that.
Okay, so let me put this way. So, for example, I have created the Bremen port right now. Okay, I have not linked to my ECC shipping point or that shipper point right now, right? I mean,
Bremen is not your shipping point. Your shipping
no.
point is Cologne.
Yeah. This two linkage is not established, right? I have created this Bremen port currently in TM system, and in ECC I have a shipping point, and this linkage or this that I will be sending from this to this kind of linkage or this is created only for this particular shipping point is not established, right?
Yeah, because I have not shown you how to establish a shipping point information from ECC to TM. That's why I started with the very simple one, where you don't have any reference of ECC. So these two locations do not have any reference of ECC. This is the purely a TM data. Because in ECC you will not have any port or airport, right? You don't have any transshipment point. That is a specific information for TM. Okay. So first of all, I'll show you how to create this port, for example. In order to create these two ports, for example, you can go here. For example, I go to port underscore Bremen. My location type is port. I click on create button. And here you see latitude, longitude is all blank. So I can use the unit location code here. Port uploading. So this is my port at Bremen. And you see here, currently it is blank, right? Now if I go to address, so I maintain some address information, payment code. I put some street house number. So suppose it's Düsseldorf, this is house is the postal code is something, city is Düsseldorf. Okay, country is Germany. Okay. And this is my region. And when I go into this enter now, once I enter this, I can see the latitude longitude has come out with the precision. Okay. You can also maintain some more information here. You can maintain the telephone number, email, fax, email, whatever it is. Okay. Similarly, I go to alternative identifier. With the alternative identifier type, you can maintain the Bremen port of loading. You can maintain some goods waiting time. I don't know, I cannot maintain any EWM information here, so I keep it blank and I click on save. Okay, yeah. Any questions from anyone?
So Virendra, are you covering the GIS part today or in
Yeah,
today's?
I'll cover after this only.
Okay.
But it will be a very short part because I cannot show you anything in GIS. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the port at Bremen. Similarly, I will create the port at my New York. Okay. So again, I put in the unit location code. Okay. This is US. So here I will create port of discharge. I don't want to maintain any goods duration time here, for example. Okay. Okay. So this is the port of discharge. So I have two more locations. But in order to explain those two more locations, shipping point and my ship to party, right? For my customer or final destination. Okay. So give me a minute. I'll just be coming back. And first of all, I will start with that GIS. Okay. And then I'll show you, how to create this source and destination location based on, the data from ERP. Okay. So just give me 2 minutes. I'll be back. Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm thinking how to start with the GIS. Okay. Because this is, I don't have any PPT for that. So it will be purely a little bit theoretical also, and just few setups. I'll not say it's a configuration setup, but like just a theoretical more knowledge where I can tell you what needs to be done. Okay. So the GIS concept is, as you know, the GIS stands for Geographical Information System, right? So this is a mechanism by which you capture and store different geographical data. And why it is required? This is required in order to enable data analysis as well as visualization. Okay. So through the GIS, it actually help you to do multiple things. First of all, it can allow you to do geocoding. It can help you to do a distance and duration determination. It can help you to do a routing, and also it can also help you to for your geographic map visualization, which can help you to do some decision making also. Okay. So basic functionality is, or basic, I can say that when an address is provided, all the geo coordinates will represent your longitude, latitude, altitude, right? And geocoding means the latitude, longitude, altitude mapping is called as a geocoding. So because of the geocoding, the locations can directly be shown in the right position on the map, and thus the distance and duration determination and routing can be done easily. So given a source and a destination geocoordinate, the distance and duration can be, can be created. Now, why distance and duration is required? Because as I told you, distances are required to do your optimizing based planning. That means how to minimize the distance travel when you are transporting by different mode of transport. That is also possible only if you know the distances to be traveled. And also distances are always shown in your freight order, freight unit, all the information, all those documents actually show the distances that needs to be captured from point A to point B. So apart from distance, duration is also required for your time-based planning. When you are doing your planning, what is the most optimized time that can be used? That is only possible if you are knowing the duration. Okay. So as with distance, durations are also shown in your transportation tool. So means there is a planning tool in our TM called as a transport cockpit, where for different documents for different stages, both distance and duration can be shown. Okay. Now the question is how this particular integration happens. So always note that GIS, if you are integrating with different types of service providers, there are a lot of regional providers which offers this data. Okay. So whenever you are integrating your TM with GIS vendors, basically some TM businesses are already familiar with certain GIS vendor, and they basically use the tools from those vendors. The big companies may even use multiple GIS. That means based on different continent, based on different region, they can use GIS. So that's the reason SAP TM does not contain its own GIS, but it actually offers an infrastructure through which GIS or multiple GIS tools can be integrated. And the integration part with those particular external GIS providers for geocoding, for distance, for duration determination requires ABAP knowledge. Okay. Because whenever you are integrating with any type of external GIS providers, there has to be some services which has to be set up. And how TM needs to be connected to a web service, for that reason you need ABAP. So, it is always preferred that you directly connect a GIS via web service rather than using any type of middleware. Okay. And TM also has its own middleware which you can use, which is called as a IGS. If you remember on the very first day in the architecture part, I have shown you that the GIS can be integrated through IGS also. IGS stands for SAP Internet Graphics Server. Okay. However, IGS is not used because IGS requires its own server and its interface is tied to only one vendor and it only uses single distance call. Okay. So therefore it causes a lot of performance issues. So while integrating a GIS for many scenario, you also have to consider the licensing fee of the GIS and the effort to develop and configure the integration. Okay. So now in order to set that up, there are few things what you need to keep in mind. So before I go into what are the things you need to do, any question? So anything which you did not understand? What did I tell you so far?
So, Virendra, I think, I mean, this is all good theoretically. I mean, but there are some practical limitations in TM where, let us say, you have connected two zones to each other. So, current GIS which is inbuilt and it is only calculating the mid of that zone to mid of other zone, so source zone to destination zone, and that is a practical problem in some cases even for the seasonal purpose. So in winter they will take a different route and in summer they have a different thing. So for that there is a requirement. PC Myler is already doing that. Now, what I understand from you is that I mean PC Myler, yes, it can be connected with web service, so that is okay. But whether I mean that is possible in 2020 or not, that is something, because you said there are no nodes.
Framework is there, but in order to connect to any provider, you have to do a enhancement. Okay, so whether it's 2020, 1909, this PC Miller and all the GIS services, basically there are three services which is supported. One is your geocoding service. One is your geo routing service. And these are all service. And if you have to basically avail any service, you cannot get anything in standard. Okay, and another is the map display. Okay, so when I say geocoding, so geocoding means whatever, so it is mainly basically deals with the location master data. Okay. And whenever you are basically setting up the service with specific to geocoding, in that case, the geo coordinates depends on the addresses which you provide. Like in the location master, you have the address, right? So that geo coordinates which you define either based on country level or region level on the location master data. So that is the concept they use for geocoding. And based on that, your latitude longitude is updated. So that is the first one. When you come to geo routing, so geo routing means all the vehicles which is used in transportation planning, they need to be delivered within the shortest time period, right? That is what we call as the route optimization and the transportation optimization, right? And reliable routing basically supports TM by providing the shortest distance. So the distance between the locations is influenced by the geographical position of the locations, right? So that's why when you are doing any type of geo routing, it actually depends on the distance and duration, the geo coordinates and the driving direction. And in order to set this up, basically we need to create the distance and duration in your particular transportation lane. So in a transportation lane, there is another master data in TM where you can specify the transportation distances and the transportation duration. And the geo routing will actually follow the data which you create there. Okay.
Right, but that is the static data, right? So
that is the static data, absolutely. And the last data what you have is on the map. Okay, so map part is something which you basically specify. So I will be interested to know what SAP told you that it's a standard. Standard means what? How will you? So these are the basic data you need to set up. And once this data is set up, but you need to have a real-time update from all those GIS, right? And for that, what SAP has done, I show you what SAP's configuration is, but that never works. Okay, so if you go into, where did it go? Transport management, or I will show you in S/4HANA. So you go to transport management, and the transport management goes into basic functions. And here I need to check where they are put in. Process component, text, security, notification.
I think you can search by geo, so you will get that. Yeah.
It will be a difficult one. Yeah, this one. Yeah, distance and duration. So if you see here, under transportation lane, you have this distance and duration, but this is not any specific to PC Miller and all. See, if you see, first of all, you need to define the zone, for which zone you want to distance, and then you assign the country to the zone. Okay. Then you define the strategy and the duration determination. And every strategy is there. And this, when you are changing any strategy, it's an enhancement, because this distance and duration strategy is differs from service provider to service provider. Okay. Nowhere you have any data for P similar like that. I don't know. But maybe
Okay. Okay. Yeah, got it.
Okay. And if you
So
want to use, yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If you want to use GIS tool, That means if you want to integrate with your GIS provider, you have to integrate this. If you want to use the SAP's own tool of IGS, then you can do it. And if you are using the IGS and all, it makes sense to capture the data directly from the transport level. But if you are willing to pay extra additional amount of money to basically get the real-time updates on the geographical system, then you can think of buying the license from the service provider, and accordingly the distance, duration, determination, everything can be done. Okay.
Okay, got it. Just in the interest of time, I don't want to hijack your training here. I just wanted to know, are you also covering the advanced functionalities like TM LBN integration, advanced shipping and receiving functionalities, also the freight agreement functionalities with the Excel integration, which is actually Delta in 2020?
LBN, not possible. It's a cloud-based product. ASR, Advanced Shipping Receiving. Okay. So it is part of S4HANA. Okay. So we need to basically integrate with S4HANA. That is which is the latest updated version is FSP02, which is not part of this content. Okay. So that is not there.
Okay, so and freight agreement which has now Excel integration.
Yeah, normal freight agreement with Excel updates and all that is there. Okay.
When I say agreement, you are sending RFQs to the various parties. You are getting their quotes, and then you are updating the agreement, and it is all done using Excel. A carrier can download that Excel and have a insert the rate in that, and then send it to you, and you upload that rate, and then finally you update the agreement. This functionality. This is latest in 2020 now. So are you covering that?
See, whatever the discussion we had, it was with reference to standalone TM, but I'm trying to show you S4HANA as well. Okay. So you need to tell me if you want to see 2020 or S4HANA standard, because I can show you both, but that will not be possible within the allocated hours. Okay. So if you are interested in 2020 box, then I can always show you 2020. But whatever information I received, it was SAP TM 9.5, because right now all are in 2020, S4HANA 2020. Right, no one is hardly in SAP TM 9.5. But if you are interested to know SAP S4HANA,
I mean, it is not an interest, it is a requirement. I mean, actually from the client, and we are implementing it 2020, and we have already using that box right now.
You are using 2020 box?
Yes.
And how you are connecting the collaboration with the carrier, because we don't have LBN and all, you have installed LBN.
So collaboration, we are not collaboration portal we are not using, because we are client is willing to pay for LBN PC miler. For that they will be using that. ASR functionalities, we have something called as new object called as consignment order, right, in 2020. So that consignment order, now you don't require that integration between TM and EWM anymore to create a TUs and all. So instead of that, now it is a advanced shipping and receiving functionality which is introduced in 2020, which will use that functionality. So I actually, I was told that, if it is, are you covering that? If then, I would be interested to join the calls, other calls as well.
ASR is not in, we have not considered that. And whatever access we have given you, it is for TM 9.5. That's what I told you. I'm equally comfortable S4HANA also. So if you tell me you need S4HANA, I can, because ultimately it's only the change in the order management. Rest all are same. Okay.
Right. I don't know about other participants, but participants who are from my project and part of my team would be interested in 2020. I really don't want to comment here because there are other participants also in the call, and that clarifies my doubt. I don't want to actually hijack your agenda. You can continue with that. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So as I told you, the major difference between S4HANA and your TM part lies only in the order management. So what we can do, I can do a combination of both. Okay. So order management part, the things which are added in 9.5, I can show you that. And then I can run the course in S4HANA also. That will also okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So let me start with that. So basically, if you see this, sorry, I was in the master data part, right? Just one more thing which I wanted to tell you before I go ahead on this, that whenever you are actually setting up any type of geocoding, so this one which I told you that geocoding is there, there is one layer of configuration which you also need to do, which I just show you because I just shown one path for GIS and there is another path for geocoding, which is your NetWeaver. So under SAP NetWeaver, you will have general settings, and under general settings, you have set geocoding. So this also configuration you need to activate or update. Okay. So where you need to first of all register the geocoding program. Okay. So before any external geocoding functions are used, at least one geocoding services has to be registered in the system. So these services is what you are saying about. You have to activate the service from PC Miller and all. Okay, so there are a lot of services. You need to have this first of all. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So next, once you have registered this geocoding program, next is we need to assign the geocoding program to countries, because you need to know for which country the distance and duration needs to be determined and the routing. Okay. So you need to maintain this geocode and maintenance sync. Okay. So so for every country, this is required. Okay. Or else it is not going to work. So means each location, that means in other words, whatever location you want to have as a GIS setup, for each location, for each country, they will use this service. And in the standard, the service is SAP O. This is the standard service we use. Okay. Now, once you have defined this, then we need to assign the address fields for geocoding, because your geocoding, how will the system know for which field you want to determine the geocoding, right? So for that, you need to assign the relevant address fields for geocoding. So that means to restrict the geocoding service calls and to improve the performance of the geocoding, you have to maintain the address fields that will trigger the geocoding. This is very important, because for some countries or regions, they only want region. For some others, they want city. For some others, they want postal code. So these are the different fields which SAP has standard, and you can do it. Okay. And finally, once you have added these fields, you need to process the geographical data. So this is the most important part, because you have to map the country with the geocoordinates. That's where you see that when I was entering the coordinates, rather when I was entering the country, the geocoordinates were coming in, right? This is because of this configuration. And the table name is GEOT005. GEO stands for geography, T005. So that is the table where all this information gets stored. So that is the standard table where you can find it. And you can also define the geocoordinates for regions. So, if like you, I think you were asking, right? Like how these latitude, longitude, altitudes are coming automatically. This is because of these two configurations. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
And there are certain reports also. If you want to basically run the report of mass geocoding, so there is a report. If you go to SC38, I forget this, but SAP APO /mass underscore geocode underscore this one. Okay. You can use this report for mass geocoding. Okay. But in order to do this, why I was telling our config development is required, because there is a service you need to activate, and that service is in the config. It's in the enhancement. I just show you that also. So if you go to SPRO, so whenever you are getting any service, external services from PC Miller or XYZ, okay, you go to basic functions, you go to process controller, and there is a service called as geo_det, which is a geographical determination service. Okay, so this service is always linked to a method. Okay, so there are a lot of services you see. One service is for coordinate, one service is for route. Okay, and every services, or so for example, GOT, and every services have to be linked to a method. So you have to find the corresponding method for the corresponding service. That's why I was telling you that without enhancement, you cannot proceed, because every method which you're linking to the services has to have a class interface and interface component specified for that particular service provider. See, this is the one. Now, did you understand why did I tell you in standard not possible?
Yeah.
The SAP has given the standard implementation code, but that does not work. You have to enhance as per the requirement. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any question from anyone before I go into the location part for source and destination? Anything? Okay. So this source and destination location can be created in two different ways in two different servers. Now it depends on whether you are in S4HANA or whether you are in standalone. If you are working in S4HANA, please be very attentive here. If you are working in S4HANA, you don't need to basically spend too much time. Just go to a report which is called as AC38. And in this report, there is a program, SAP APO create location. And when you go to this particular program, and if you execute this, system will say create location for business partner, plant and shipping point. So that means in case my shipping point is 2020, okay, in that case, if I run this, my locations will be created automatically. In case I need to, so this is my source location because my shipping point is my source location. And for destination location, because it will be my ship to party, which is my customer. So you can always use, for example, if you are using this customer, you can always run and you can create the location. So in SAP S4HANA, this is very much simplified. You just need to run this report and automatically locations will be created for your source and destination. But if you are moving in through your SAP TM standalone, then we need to create your SIFing. You have to do some SIFing, SIF model. Anyone aware? Anyone heard about SIFing? Anyone knows what is SIFing?
Yes, Swin.
Okay. So SIFing is the process by which you have to transfer your master data from ECC to TM. So that is the framework or the methodology we use whenever we are working on standalone. So again, I write here clearly, if you are working on standalone server, you use SIF model to transfer your master data. Sorry, standalone. And if you are using, if you're working in S4HANA, then you can use the report to transfer your shipping point and your ship to bati in S4HANA. Clear? Now, how do you do the shipping? So for example, I created my master data. This is my master data, CUST_002 in SD. I hope all of you know how to create a customer master, right? Anyone who does not know? So when you are working in any shipping, first of all, you have to type this transaction CFM1. So CFM1 is, first of all, you have to create integration model and then you have to activate the integration model. So there are two transactions involved in order to do the shipping. One is your CFM1, another is your CFM3. So suppose I want to transfer my customer. So I just create, for example, CUS_TM. So that means I'm transferring my customer master in TM. So this is the logical system because this is the system where I need to transfer. That is my TM system. And this is the application. So I can use certain APU application ID. This is the, it's again a free text. You can use any application, but I'm using the earlier application which I've used to transfer my master data. So I'm just using the customer one. It can be anything. You can just use any text. And whenever I'm going to transfer my customer master, what I have to do, I have to select for which customer I need to transfer, right? So what you can do, you can basically select the customer here. Where you can select the customer, just select this here, select this, and here you can maintain the customer ID. When you are maintaining this customer ID here, you have to also ensure that this, whether you only want to create a location or you also want to create a business partner. Can you tell me why this option is there and which option you should select? Let me guess what you understood from TM. Which option I should select?
Locations. Number 2.
Only locations?
No, number 2. We need a location and a BP.
Yes, right. You need a location as well as business partner because see, again, you have to come back to the very basics. So if you see this particular flow, ship to party is my location because this is my destination location, but at the same time, ship to party is a partner, right? He is a business partner for you because this ship to party is used in my sales as a business partner. And at the same time, this ship to party is also created as a location. So whenever you are transferring vendor master or customer master, always create this option as 2 because you need also the location and the business partner. And once you maintain this, you basically need to execute. Once you execute, select this, click on integration model. So it will say integration model generated. Good. Okay. You can do a consistency check. Okay. No errors found. So once you have created this integration model, then you have to go to another transaction CFM3. This is for activation. And this CFM3 is actually taking the data from the previous CFM1. So that's why you don't have to enter the data again. See the same data, model, same, logical system, same, application, same. And then you activate. And once you activate, you just click on this and you click on start. So initially the status is inactive, you have to activate it. So when you activate, click on ignore. Okay. And this activation is done. It will be turned into green. So that means now your customer has been saved into TL. Clear? Any question? Similarly, you have to also shift your shipping point. So again, I go to CFM1. And here instead of customer, I just change the model name to shipment underscore TL. And here my application should be different because I don't want to mix any application. So I want to create it as ship01. And when I do this, I have to enter my shipping points. So what I need to do, I go down and beside my customer, I have my shipping points. So you can enter multiple shipping points. So if you want to enter multiple, you just click on this multiple selection. As of now, I want to only shift my shipping point, which I'm going to use. So it is, I think, TSPD. Okay. Click on execute. And then I go to my this one CFM3. And then I yeah. Any question on this? Similarly, if you want to sieve the material, you can also sieve the material through CFM1. And here, instead of shipping, you can say material I want to transfer across TM. And in the logical system, sorry, in the application, I need to specify the material. And here I need to specify my materials. So my material is TM product 01. Okay. Why 5 it showed? It showed 5 because this material is extended to 5 plants. Okay. Then it went to CFM3. Okay. And if you want to basically check whether your shipping has been done correctly, what you can do, you can just create a sales order. Okay. Suppose you just this hidden level information, you can just create it. And then suppose I give this to 20. I give this to 20. I enter my material product. I give a quantity as 1. Okay. And then I click on save. So my sales order got created. If I see the TM status, I did not maintain the route. I should have maintained the route here. So this is my OTR which got created with my freight unit. That means whatever material, whatever shipping point, whatever customer I've used is correct. So this is my OTR, order based requirement. And if you want to basically create your delivery, you can also create a DTR. So I'll come into this OTR DTR later on. Okay. So any questions so far? Anything? Any question on the shipping point and everything? It is clear?
We didn't Alok here. One quick
Yeah.
question on the sifting part for master
Yes.
data. So
Yes.
is it always we have to do it manually, or if anything, any delta or new record gets created in ECC can automatically be shift into TM? Like
No,
products are getting created day to day, so somebody will have to go and do it every time for that, or
no, you
is
have.
there any?
Yeah, I will explain those bad jobs and all. Okay, I'll
Okay,
just
okay,
cover this master data and I will share those details also. So there are certain bad jobs which you can schedule. Okay, and according to that, you know, the only the delta changes will move on. Okay,
okay,
so
okay,
that part is there. I'll tell you all those things when I'll come into
okay,
the,
okay. I'll,
because I have a session on the bad jobs. So that bad job I'll cover everything.
okay, I'll take a note. Thank you.
So is this clear to everyone? Any question? So this is my source location. And this is my destination location. So I was just telling you that in case suppose you want to change the location type, we don't have this report, what is there only in S4HANA. So there is a report, this one, change location type. So in case you have created, instead of a port, you have created as an airport or something like that, right? You have to change the location type. So the location type can be changed using this particular report. You can change it. Okay. In case you want to,
or is it some, I mean, if I declare a location as port or a shipping point, is it going to be having some inbuilt differences, or is just a way to identify or just segregate?
yeah, see, the thing is, if just think, if you are creating a port as an airport, in the location master, suppose instead of unit location, you use IATA code. So within the location creation also, you can use different data based on different location type, right? Correct. So, and also your transportation planning will not be correct, right? If we're using instead of a airport, a port, you know, the distances covered by airport is much more than port, right? So in that case, it will not be a proper planning being done. So although from the end user perspective, will not be able to show much difference except 2 or 3 fields, but you should always try to use the correct information in your planning. Okay. Clear? Hello.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah. So there is another, you know, report where you can actually delete the location. So this report is delete locations. Okay. So when you are deleting the location, for example, if you want to execute, see, it will ask for the location and the location type. But this location and the location type deletion will only happen for those locations only whose deletion mark is there. So you have to be very careful for which location you want to do the deletion. Okay. So these are the 2-3 reports which you have for TM. And do you know what are the database tables which we use for locations? Anyone? So there are certain database tables which you can use when you are actually creating or viewing the location. So those, let me just cover those. So first of all is log table, LOC table. So this log table is the base of your entire master data table for location. So if I go here, if I go to AC16, so you can go to /SAP APO /LOC. Okay. And you can make a criteria what location type you want to see. So the log ID, this location ID, you can double click here. So this location ID is the primary key which cannot be changed. And the log number, this is the location type which you see here. Okay. And all the information about location you can see. Now, if you want to have a mapping between your ECC and your TM location, because you have seen like for a specific shipping point, this is the location and all. So instead of location, you just need to change the table to log map. Okay. So suppose if you only want to see a location type for shipping point, run this entry. Okay. So there are two locations which you see here. One is this location, one is this location. So this location is the external location number. And this location is the internal location number. Internal location means it's your TM location. And this is the external location, means the location which is coming from ECC. So this table is used to map the location from ECC to location into TM. Okay. And in case you see that there is some inconsistent location and you want to remove those inconsistent location, that can be checked by a report, check _ log. Sorry, this is a report. So /SAP APO /check _ log. So why this program does not exist? Because I have executed this in your particular standalone. So this standalone server you don't have, but I guess you should have this in S4 now. Let me check. If it is not there, then maybe certain notes are missing. Yes. If you see here, this location check report will give an overview in case there is any inconsistency in a particular location. Okay. In case there, so you have to give the location ID and all, and then you can check it. So you can also check the different options here. Okay. Okay. Any other thing? So there is a specific baddie, like why I'm telling you this. So for example, you have a shipping point 1710, you have a plant 1710. And if you are transferring both the location, with the same shipping, or it will create both 1710, right? So you can use a baddie where you can actually add some prefix or suffix. Okay. So that baddie you can always use. Did you get me what I'm saying? So, or you can see the baddie here also. If you go to SPRO, you're going to go to transport management, baddies, and within baddie for locations, go to master data, transport network, location, and here you can create the baddies if you want to change any prefix or suffix, anything. So this is what you can actually use. Okay, clear? So with this, the location master comes to an end, but there are certain settings which you need to do in case you want to run sniffing. Okay, so those settings are actually, it's going to take a little bit more time. So I will not start it today. I'll start tomorrow onwards. But those settings are not required in case you are running in S4HANA, because in S4HANA we are not using sniffing. So if you are using sniffing, then there are certain things which you need to configure both in ECC side as well as in TM side. So that part I will cover tomorrow. Okay. Any other question from anyone? Is the location concept clear to you?
Yes.
Okay. And is it okay for you? Because as I told you that only difference between S4 and your ECC part is on the order management. So I'll just show you the OTR, DTR, and then all the processes remains the same in S4 HANA. So then I can show you the S4 HANA. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.